Moderated by Ashfaq Ishaq. Dr. Ishaq is a civil sector leader for the past 25 years and has served as a World Bank economist, a university professor, and a CEO. Founded the International Child Art Foundation in 1997 to cultivate children's creativity and grow mutual empathy for a prosperous and peaceful future. Under his visionary leadership, ICAF School Art Program, the Arts Olympiad, has grown over the years into the world's largest. World Children's Festival, which he produces quadrennially at the National Mall across the U.S. Capitol, has become the Olympics of children's imagination. More than 5 million children have participated in and benefited from his programs and events worldwide. He inspires them to become creative empaths so they can transform our wounded world into a wonderful one. He has examined and judged more children's artwork than anyone, alive or dead. He believes the future is determined by what children imagine as possible and how they work together to make it happen. The panelists, it's time that we hear your voices, advocating for the realities you want to live in. So instead of me making an introduction, please allow me to hand this opportunity back to each one of you and to Ashfaq. Thank you all for being here today. We're looking forward to hearing from you. I'm going to step off stage.
No, thank you so much. I mean, such a generous, introduction. I'm in Foggy Bottom in Washington, D.C. Thank you all for your presence. I'm most grateful to Kavya for her perspicacity and courage to include a youth panel. Many people appreciate or understand. We can learn and benefit from the perspectives of children and young people. Kavya, yes. Our 5 panelists are ages 13 to 23. Each one is exceptionally talented. Lalitya is at Columbia University in New York. Evie is in middle school, North Carolina. Jonathan is a technology teacher in Accra, Ghana, West Africa. Ago is finishing high school in the Boston area. Where is a freshman at Purdue University's computer science department. 25 years ago, there was no national arts organization for American children, nor a global arts organization for the world's children. Founded the International Child Art Foundation in 1997, filled this void to employ the arts for school children's creative and empathic development. Today, the manifestations of the fourth industrial revolution, such as the metaverse, show that we must democratize creativity so everyone can participate and benefit. Creativity is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition for a brighter future. We need mutual empathy because without empathy, collaborative innovation becomes problematic. Democracy can turn into a nightmare. Conflict resolution and peace become an illusion. The ideal of a more perfect union becomes just another dream. Metaverse is built solely on creativity, will not uplift humanity. It will be just another technological platform to sell stuff, perhaps to harass outsiders or opponents, surely to lure the children and maybe brainwash them. Our first panelist is Lalita Acharya, a biomedical engineering and political science student at Columbia. Summer was searching online for young inventors for the current issue of our Child Art Quarterly magazine. It featured young leaders. Lalita invented a device that detects microbial contaminants in water systems using artificial intelligence. She did this during her middle and high school years. Besides AI, she's also an accomplished violinist. She says, and I quote, when you are in STEM and facing a problem, you need a musical or artistic outlet. Ms. Acharya, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I'd love to take a moment and thank everybody who's been involved in planning the Metaverse Safety Week, especially for including us youth in this discussion. I think it's going to be particularly crucial as we move forward, as this generation continues to develop the next technologies of the future, that we continue to focus in on how we're going to develop it, how we want the metaverse to look like, and what kind of structures and safety we need to kind of embed into it. So what I really wanted to take a moment and talk about was because for my millennial friends in the room who kind of grew up with the internet, the rule was kind of the internet is a very dangerous place. Don't get on there. You know, things like the metaverse weren't even around, but it was really looked down upon to make relationships through online networks, to make friends, meet people, do all those kinds of things. It wasn't really heard of at that time. And so instead, when you have Gen Z kind of coming to the floor, taking on this new role in the metaverse, we have a lot of friendships, a lot of formations that we've been able to make without ever meeting in person. And I think the COVID pandemic just really exacerbated it. As I stand on this stage with my fellow peers, none of us have ever been able to meet each other in person, but we were able to connect through online resources. We're now speaking together on this panel. And I think that's really a shift in how we're going to have to approach metaverse safety in the future, because not forming relationships through the metaverse is no longer an option. We have to rely on these new connections that we're making to be able to reach out and meet people who we traditionally might not have been able to meet face to face. So I think there's a couple of different considerations that need to be taken in when we're thinking about what we need to do in terms of metaverse safety. I think the first thing is setting up verification procedures. So when you're interacting with somebody in the metaverse, you're going to have to be very careful, very aware, and try to make sure that they are a verified account, that they are who they say they are. And if you're getting into a friendship with somebody, that you're getting into a friendship with a peer who you know and who you acknowledge. I think a perfect example of this is how I actually met my roommate at Columbia my freshman year. We met online through Facebook, which, traditionally that would be something that's very scary and looked down upon, but that's how everybody meets their peers when you're going to college far away. So we met on there. We were able to verify each other's identities through social media, through other parts of the metaverse. And then we were able to FaceTime, meet each other, and commit to rooming together for the year. So I think that's one way that we can provide a lot more safety in the metaverse, is by creating verification systems. I think secondly, we need to teach our kids and our students about the kind of signs and flags that need to be considered when you're talking to somebody on the metaverse and when you're trying to form a relationship. So kind of in the same way that online safety was very much a thing when I was in elementary school and those kinds of topics were very much emphasized, that kind of needs to be emphasized in the metaverse, where as you're connecting with people through avatars and things like that, how are you going to stay safe? What are kind of some signs that you need to look for when you meet somebody? In the same way that when you meet somebody face to face, you're obviously going to have to be considering a bunch of things as you try and parse out their personality. I think those same kind of considerations absolutely need to be made in the metaverse. So just to conclude, I think the metaverse is an amazing opportunity for us to grow, for us to develop relationships. It's part of the reason why I'm even able to be here in this virtual stage, interacting with all of these amazing crowd and these amazing fellow panelists who I have on the stage. So thank you so much once again for this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing what the metaverse can and will do in the future.
So, hello everyone. My name is Evie. I'm speaking next. I haven't had a lot of experience on the VR sort of way we go about on VR. I'm 13 years old and I just am getting into high school right now. I'm just learning how to get about with social media because I haven't had a lot of interaction with that through my life. And I'd just like to thank everyone for letting me speak on this panel, like Metaverse Safety Week and Dr. Ashok, who's part of the International Children's Art Foundation. So, yeah, I have heard a lot of debate about age restrictions on the metaverse, and I don't really think that many people understand what the metaverse is just yet. So there should definitely be some age restrictions in the metaverse. I have a personal experience involving the metaverse and VR in general. I once went to a VR roller coaster ride in Australia when I was 8. I put the goggles on. I felt extremely nauseous and dizzy, and I had to leave the ride early. I was very sad because I'm a huge roller coaster fan. However, more recently I tried a VR arcade game and it was such a different experience. I was a lot better with it. I only had like slight dizziness and I felt like I was in a dream almost. I think that exposing VR to children, not even with all the other problems like data stealing, privacy, identity theft, or age inappropriate content, should not happen because of health. That is the most important thing in my eyes, and I totally agree with setting an age limit of 13 on virtual reality. Another problem is children lying about their age to get on the metaverse. I mean, come on, what kid wouldn't want to lie about their age to get on a super cool new way to interact with people? I think that people, no matter their age, must set up a metaverse account with an email account and get sent daily or weekly reports on purchases, games played, or other important things. So if a child decides to purchase a game, their parents or their guardian could see if they're doing something they shouldn't, like playing a game that's too violent for them or purchasing like a lot of something that's unnecessary. And I feel like we should also include warnings of how the metaverse could potentially be dangerous to children and make sure that their parents are well aware of the dangers before letting their kids go on the metaverse. I feel like a lot of age restrictions come down to parents, so they should definitely play a part in setting boundaries for kids and what they should or shouldn't do. So we should give them guidelines like they do in the movies, where they give them age ratings based on the content. If, for example, a child's account indicates that they are below the required age on a game, it should ban them from viewing it. If the parent says that they shouldn't play it, then the parents should be able to restrict it on possibly some sort of app or other accounts so that their child can't play any dangerous games. So yeah, the metaverse is a very vast and expansive piece of new technology that I feel could have a lot of impact on our lives. And that's my ideas on what we should do for the metaverse.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Kennedy Soa from Ghana. One of the effective technologies I see and that helps to better prepare the youth for the future of work is the metaverse. And I think safety on the metaverse is very important for users to reap the benefit of this technology. A failure to address this at all levels will lead to a nightmare. Metaverse is one of the great experiences that is transforming the way children play, socialize, make friends, and develop an identity. I think parenting is required. It's not that the metaverse is dangerous. It's about teaching your kids how to behave in the real world, the virtual world. So as parents, I'm sure we know how to teach our kids not to cross the street when the red light is on, wear a seatbelt whenever they sit in a car, say no to strangers, offer them lollipops to get in their cars, because we are familiar with that kind of world. So I think the major concern anxiety parents have is because they don't know the metaverse, how to use it. Therefore, they are very anxious about it. So the anxiety of the lack of understanding of what is happening on the metaverse that is making parents scared what will happen to their children on the metaverse. So, do you let your 12-year-old child go out with unknown friends without caring about their whereabouts and what they are doing? If you translate that, you translate what you do as a parent in the physical world, the metaverse, it becomes less scary and very easy for you. Because experiences in the metaverse is a great parenting moment where you can actually enjoy the things your kids like. The best way to guide your child on the metaverse is to show interest in what they are interested in. No child wants a conversation. It's very boring. The only way a child will listen to you as a parent is when are showing interest in. Have that experience with my students as an educator. There's this game called Roblox that most of I didn't know anything about it. And saw one playing one day, and then I got interested in it to show me how it's done. So I downloaded it on my tablet, and then they started teaching me, and I felt more connected to them because we were able to talk, and anytime we meet, we talk on the game that we are going to play. Like it built a lot between us. It built a lot of trust. So I can talk to them about anything. They can tell me anything that is going on in their life. And I think every teacher would love to have such an amazing experience. So the tips I will share to you is parent is to pick a platform for your child. You have to do on what to do, what your children need to do, to check the ratings of the things they are doing on the you have to monitor them. Teach them like you would in the real world. So this is my little submission on how parental engagement will be very beneficial in Metaverse, and then how having options and non-judgmental conversations with your children, being interested in what they do in the Metaverse will have impact in their life. Thank you very much.
Are you done, Jonathan?
Yes, please, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Now, I must add that, I just wanted to say a few words about Evie. She mentioned that she's about to enter high school, but she's amazing. She does karate, runs, engages in triathlons, wants to explore space. She was the Olympiad winner from North Carolina and participated in the World Children's Festival last summer. Jonathan has been teaching school children STEM subjects through robotics and VR. So he's really doing something incredibly important for Ghana's creative future. not only Ghana, but for the surrounding countries as well, where he, goes and teaches. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Margot Madison, who is a high school senior in the Boston area. About 2 years ago, she joined the International Child Art Foundation as a volunteer. The responsibility to adult our videos. Did such a remarkable job putting images and music together. We invited her to join the youth board. We are honored that she accepted. Madison, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Ishak. So I think a lot of what I wanted to talk about has already been touched on by the panelists, but I just wanted to explore a little bit more kind of the role that parents are able to play in the metaverse and metaverse safety for their kids. So in a constantly modernizing world, kids will be on the internet. It's inevitable for social media, for school projects, for communication. But it's important that those experiences remain safe and positive. And I think, sorry, I'm still getting over a bit of an illness. I think for different ages, it's important to acknowledge the different means and the different approaches that we may have to take to ensure that safety. And so I think for younger children who are growing up with the metaverse at their disposal, a really key resource for parents will be using parental controls online. And those are available on most devices. You can enable parental controls on Macs, iPhones, and Windows, Androids, tablets. Most devices have them. And on safe search, and parents can also enable safe searches on search engines such as Microsoft, Bing, or Google. And so these are really easy ways for parents to help determine what content the internet puts before their children, because it's really hard to give a child an iPad and just hope that they don't see anything that will potentially disrupt their potentially educational or just otherwise positive experience. But obviously, as kids grow up and they mature, I'm a high schooler. I'm on the internet for projects, for anything, for social media. It's really hard for parents to get involved at that high of a level with older kids, and such as kids that are my age. So I think for older children, as opposed to younger children, where parental controls are really beneficial, a conversation is really the way to go. And I think Jonathan started to touched upon this, but when there really isn't any way to dictate exactly what your kid is going to see, it's really important to or and I think especially now, as kind of a lot of this sort of content circulates, just sitting down with your child, with your student, and talking about how to build good instincts when it comes to the metaverse and when it comes to recognizing that false information can really set them up with good technological literacy for life. And whether that be in research, whether it be just on social media, seeing tweets or seeing just kind of citizens just throwing opinions out, it's really important to talk to your child, whether they be older or younger, about what that information may mean and kind of how to build those instincts for detecting false information. So that has been my personal experience. I think that can be most effective for the two kind of different age groups. But otherwise, I'd also like to thank ICAF for having me on the panel, and it's been great working with all the other panelists. So thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Very informative, presentation. I now introduce our last panelist, Praveer Sharan, freshman at Purdue University's Computer Science Department. Over the past year, Praveer has been helping redesign the International Child Art website. I think that before Christmas, you would be able to see the fruits. Praveer is also a national chess champion, and at the last World Children's Festival, the National Mall, he hosted chess workshops for children. And we are delighted to have him as our youth board member. Mr. Sharan, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ishaq, for the introduction. And thank you for all the organizers of Metaverse Safety Week for allowing us to speak here. Now, what I would like to talk about is some of the actual physical dangers of taking part in the metaverse or taking part in virtual reality. And as many of us know, the metaverse and virtual reality, it's a technology with a lot of future potential. It has the ability to put us in simulations where we can learn, which otherwise would cost a lot of money to put us in that situation, such as being able to practice flying a plane in a simulation or learning how to scuba dive in a simulation. Those are all incredible uses of virtual reality. However, it's also important to notice how it can go wrong if you get too invested into this virtual reality world. There have been many instances of the use of this technology where not only children, but older people have caused harm not only to themselves, but to others. First of all, it's important to make sure that the physical boundaries while you're in the virtual reality are kept and that you don't run into anything or hurt yourself on anything. If you're a child, or even if you're an older person, it's very easy to forget about the boundaries because most virtual reality companies, they have a program where it makes you set the boundaries around yourself so that you can only move to those places in the game. However, it's very easy to get wrapped up into the game and then move irrationally or suddenly into something and then end up hurting yourself. And this happens very commonly, actually. There's many instances of it happening on the internet with people doing virtual reality games, and then also instances of it happening to people I know. On the other side, children are not only in danger when they're using virtual reality themselves, but young children, they can be harmed if they do not understand the concept of virtual reality boundaries. There are instances where the children have been hurt because they walk into the boundaries of virtual reality and then end up getting hurt by the user of the technology. So it's a very important consideration and something that I think the technologies they're trying to fix. Important consideration to make is that there should be a vast area where you're doing your virtual reality gameplay or however you're using it. So just drawing an outline around yourself isn't enough. You need to make sure that if there is an instance where you step outside the boundary, then you are still safe and you're still like away from things that can severely hurt you. And it is a very good investment to make sure that you have a safe room where you can do virtual reality, where you are away from other people and you're away from harmful objects. Now, when we talk about physical safety in the metaverse, it's not just about keeping clear of your surroundings. There are more physiological effects of the metaverse and especially virtual reality that should be considered. Important thing to consider that there have been studies backing this up is that there can be health problems with being in a virtual reality for too long. And this includes eye strain and just poor health in general. And as Evie mentioned, nausea. And this is a problem in younger children since their brains are still developing, but these effects, it can hurt anybody. So it's also important to make sure that the VR technologies are keeping this in mind when they're being used, maybe to have some kind of alert system every period of time to tell the user, it's been too long, you should probably put down the set and then take a break and then come back. Because being just in a virtual reality without your senses being attuned to the real environment, it can confuse your brain and it can cause problems. I remember there was this time where I was trying out for an Oculus with my friend, and within 30 minutes, I had a lot of nausea and I had to lie down for hours. And there was this one moment where I walked off a cliff, but since it was in a model, I didn't actually fall, but it still tricked my brain into thinking I was about to fall off a cliff. And this felt extremely strange, and it was quite alarming. So it's in the future, it's important that virtual reality in the metaverse takes all these things into consideration to make sure that children are not getting too invested into this virtual world, and that they're still able to put the technology down after every 30, 40 minutes, or maybe an hour, and then take a pretty lengthy break to play outside or to get some exercise to keep themselves in good health so that they don't stay idle for too long. And then in that case, virtual reality can end up as a much more positive force for these children. And I think if we make sure to take those things into consideration, then virtual reality will be a much safer technology, and it will be a lot more trusted in the future.
Thank you so much, Praveer. What an excellent, presentation by everybody. I'd like to thank you all. Maybe if any one of you would like to comment on what somebody else said, and at the same time we can ask for any questions that the audience has, they can click to raise their hands.
I kind of had one point to bring up, which is like the physical health, physical health kind of component, which I think is so critical to talking about, which, Evie and Praveer mentioned. I just wanted to see if any of the other panelists had thoughts about not only how it can affect our mental health when we're talking about things like the metaverse, but how physically it can really affect us. I mean, one great example, though not directly the metaverse, is how during COVID, a lot of our physical health suffered as we were constantly put onto Zoom and constantly put onto online situations instead of in-person interactions. So as we move more into like a permanent state of the metaverse, how that's going to impact us.
Well, in terms of health, I definitely experienced, like, when I got back into activities after COVID, after going back to sports like swimming and track, like, I was definitely a lot more fatigued and tired than I normally would have been if I hadn't spent so long just on computers all the time. So I do think, going back to what Praveer said, that taking breaks and going outside for a little bit is definitely going to be very important if we do develop more and more into the metaverse. We definitely need to take more breaks and look at our physical health in the real world rather than just staying and, like, as some people call it, grinding on the metaverse.
I would love to take a moment to just make a comment about this fantastic group of students and multi-disciplinary people, and all of you are assembled here. Well, first of all, Ashfaq, thank you so much for assembling fantastic talent, and thank you all, each one of you. I totally did not expect this amazing research and insights. I did not know what to expect, actually. You all have pleasantly surprised me, and I've learned a lot from your perspective as well. One of the key things that I've learned is we need to really include children and involve children and youth in making decisions that will impact their lives. And so it is my commitment to you as we conduct research, help governments and industries to build safeguards for the future. This panel, your presence here, a testament to what we choose to do, and what we must do is to include you, involve you, and have not much of a negotiation about the things that you need, the things that you want creativity to be highlighted. And this is something, Ashfaq, I have to learn a lot from you. So thank you. I hope in future also we continue this discussion and take this collaboration forward to help safeguard the future for everyone, especially for children.
Kavya, thank you so much. You're most kind, and really, anytime that there is any opportunity, sure, the panelists would welcome any such opportunity. Must assure you that all of these presentations were authentic, were not generated through generative AI or the chat GPT. They generated something from chat GTP by asking the question about what are some of the safety concerns regarding metaverse. It immediately, in like 3 seconds, it spitted out privacy concerns, cyberbullying, fraud and scams, physical harm, and addiction. So technologies these days, they are changing so rapidly, but the authentic voices, the authentic concerns of children and what they feel and what they believe in is of increasing importance in our world. Okay, so Kavya, thank you, and I thank all my panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Definitely a lot to think about after that. I learned a lot for sure. So we have another break here.